something. BJJ is absolutely useless outside of the cage or your dojo. It's useless on the street. It's useless. You can't do a double leg takedown on concrete. You're going to f yourself up. Even if you do take him down to the ground, many submissions don't work if he can bite or if he can scratch your eyes or if he can pull a knife.
Facts.
Thirdly, you don't know if he has friends. You're going to take him to the ground, put him in an arm bar, and his friend's going to fucking kick you in the head or curb stomp you, and you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right? The number one rule of street fighting is stay on your feet.
Yes.
Number one rule. You might need to run. Rolling around on the floor with some dude is amateur hour. And all these Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys, every time I say this, like, no, BJJ, blah, 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 blah. You're a bunch of dorks. It's useless.
And what was your take on that clip?
Couple things. So the first thing, a lot of people have asked me over the last year or so about Andrew Tate. To be honest with you, I have no idea really who he is or who he was. I've watched maybe 2 clips of him. One was the one that you sent me. That is that one. And the first thing that struck me right away is that it's a prime example of what I call boy speak in the book. It's a kind of an immature take on violence where his focus is on trying to show to other people, trying to signal that he's skilled in the art of violence out of basically insecurity. And it reminded me of the kind of thing that fatherless young men wind up getting stuck in, the kind of bravado and nonsense you would hear from gang members and other people who haven't been raised properly to understand what healthy masculinity looks like. So from the first thing I would just say is, his whole demeanor and the way he dealt that told me that he's got some real issues. As far as his excuses and all those things, number one, it's a fight. So you don't get to pick where it's going to be, right? Police, this happened a lot too. When jiu-jitsu first started to get into law enforcement, you heard a lot of the martial arts guys go, well, you don't want to be on the ground. You've got a gun. You're a cop. You're of all the places you don't want to be on the ground. Well, guess what? Every police officer in the world knows that sometimes you wind up on the ground. You're dealing with a suspect. It would be nice if we could always stay on our feet, but they will tackle you. They'll get you from behind. It's called a fight because you don't get to choose where you go all the time. Number one. Number two, people can always have friends there. There could be multiple opponents. So if you're a boxing and you're going to fight 2 or 3 people at once, it doesn't make any sense. People can always have weapons. Somebody draws a knife on you, not going to be any better boxing them than you would be trying to control them with some kind of grappling. And yeah, there's no mats in the street, but that's for you, not me, because I'm going to be the one on top. I'm the grappler. Your head is going to be the one that hits the concrete, not mine. And so it's just all these kind of things that they haven't really fully thought through or haven't been in enough physical conflicts to understand the reality of violence. One of the first big takeaways that I started to learn when I started to pressure test martial arts, and this happened before I even ran into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was putting the Jeet Kune Do Concepts curriculum through a lot of full contact training with my students. And one of the first things you realize is it's very, very hard to stop a large, aggressive man from charging you and getting his hands on you and throwing you down to the ground. Just even if they're not a skilled wrestler, just a football tackle. You get a 220-pound aggressive guy and he just charges at you, swinging wildly and grabbing you, you're probably going to wind up on the ground. And it's nice to think that we can knock him out on the way in or we can circle like Muhammad Ali, but it's actually very, very difficult to physically stop someone from closing the distance. And that was actually the opposite of what the Jeet Kune Do guys at the time had spent all their time on. In their mind, they had this idea that it was very difficult to get close to people. And so the idea was how to close the gap and get in there. And it was actually completely backwards. What's hard is to keep people from getting close to you. Every boxing match we ever see, you're going to see clinch happen over and over and over again. And you could tell one boxer, hey, I don't want you to clinch with this guy at all. Don't let this guy clinch with you at all. And this is a professional fighter, professional boxer that spends his life throwing punches. He's not going to stop the other guy from clinching with him. He's just not. It's too hard. Unless you knock them out immediately on the way in, which again, if you think you're someone that can do that, you just don't understand violence that well. So everything he listed was kind of silly. And the way he listed it also, I found a bit disturbing. So he's definitely not a resource that I would send people to for anything related to